Welcome to Salaam Nerds Podcast. We do reviews and recaps of your favorite TV shows, movies, and current events.
Yo, it's the Salaam Nerds. My name is Uneeb, aka Watch Me Eat, and I'm here by boy Jazz.
We drop live episodes on YouTube on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to all our supporters. Please help us by subscribing and leaving a good review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All episodes can also be found everywhere podcasts are found.
Yo, Salaam Nerds. It's your boy Neves, aka Watchman Neves, and I'm here with my co-host Jazz, and we have a very special guest for you today. A mystery guest, someone who didn't even get a background story or background reference in the show. Welcome to the show, Farah.
Thank you so much for having me. Good. I'm doing well. It's been so long since we've seen each other.
Almost a year. It's almost a year since we've seen each other. That's crazy.
I know. It's crazy. Time flies.
How have you been?
I've been good. I've been surviving residency and kind of getting through this 15 seconds of fame that I've gotten to be a part of for the last couple of days. So it's been fun.
It's exciting. Like there's a Reddit thread dedicated to you. Did you know that?
Is there? No,
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
I hope it's nice things.
The thing is, the show didn't give you enough background. They didn't interview your family. They didn't give us your background or where you're from. People are trying to figure out what race you are, what job you are. They're trying to figure all this stuff out. Why don't you give the audience a little bit of your background? Because you gave me your background, and it's really fascinating and really cool.
Yeah, so I am originally Lebanese, and my parents both immigrated from Lebanon years ago. My sister and I were both born in the US, and I was pretty much raised in the Texas area and then moved to North Carolina to do my residency in emergency medicine. So I'm still in this area. I'm still in my last year of residency now. And probably the reason they didn't give me as much of a background is truthfully partially my fault, in that I had kind of gotten to be matched with you, and then after it didn't work out between us, they had asked if I wanted to continue the show or to get matched with somebody else. But I think when I was doing all the filming, it was in a really busy part of my residency. And I feel like I just didn't get the same experience that some of y'all had gotten with the matching process. And so I kind of decided on my own that I didn't want to pursue it any further, and kind of just got to enjoy the experience that I had with you.
It's probably for the best. I feel like you got a little bit of time, and then that was it. Because I think the longer you stay on camera, the more problematic it gets.
Apparently so. But
Yeah.
I can become an awkward person later on. So I didn't need anybody to see that. So they just got to see a little piece of me. And it's nice to be a little mysterious. I had no clue.
I know. Speaking of awkward, that date was not that awkward. Please tell me it wasn't.
It was not. It was not even remotely so. And the funniest part is that some of my closest friends who watched it back were like, we know that this isn't accurate because I personally can't sit still with silence. So we were talking the entire time that you and I were together. So it was not that awkward. I promise.
Yeah.
So they made it that way. Okay.
It really was a bit more of awkward silences than there really were present. There were also things that they harped on that, I don't love One Tree Hill that much. I like it some, but I was like, I'm not a fanatic for One Tree Hill.
They do that. It's so funny. One thing that I said, they made it sound so creepy because without context, it sounded so creepy. Because we, while we were talking, we had made plans to go to this poetry thing later today, and then they asked me "Oh, are you looking for to see her again?" Yeah, I'm gonna see you later tonight. I did not say it like that.
I know. Also, people have been making fun of the score, the fact that you gave me a 10 out of 10 nerd score. They were like, if there's one thing that you would not score high on, it's being a nerd. And I was insulted. I was like, I appreciate that he said that I got a 10 out of 10. So that was another thing that I was like, oh, I didn't know he said that.
You know why? It's because we connected on, they didn't even show this. We connected on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, we did. Because my cats are named after Avatar: The Last Airbender characters. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
didn't do any of that. We
I
nerded
know.
out on Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was
I
so
know.
crazy. Yeah.
I know. I am very glad, though, that Azula got to have her little bit of fame as well. She's off in the corner right now, sleeping, not caring about anything. But she doesn't know that she is a celebrity.
The best part is Freyal was so mad because she's like, I'm the cat lady, and they didn't show my cat. And then
I
they showed
know.
her cat.
They showed all of her like cat. Oh, that was who. Yeah, I think I watched y'all's podcast, and she was saying like they showed somebody else's cat, but they didn't show mine. And I was like, they showed my cat.
No.
That
I
was
think
so
she
funny.
also told you that we're going to be meeting next week because we both found out that we live in North Carolina. So I'm so excited to see her.
I don't know why they set me up with two girls from North Carolina whose name starts with F, because I was 100% sure I was gonna mix you guys up on the show.
Oh, that's true. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Our names are kind of like similar too, like Fariel and
Yeah,
Farah.
FAR.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I'm gonna mess up their names, and that's gonna go on TV, and then I'm gonna be the guy who messed up his girl's name.
That's okay. No one would have blamed you. The world would have blamed you, but we wouldn't have blamed you.
I know. Oh, you guys don't know this, but Farah is like the nicest, kindest person in the world. I am so lucky that I got matched with you, because like I feel like if I made the same mistake that I made, and we'll get into that later, with anyone else, I would have been like stabbed to death.
Yeah.
No. I think like one of the best things I think that came out of the show was the fact that you and I got to stay such good friends. Because you're right, it was like we got ghosted immediately after we finished up shooting. And so it was just you and I like texting back and forth being like, hey, have you heard anything? Hey, have you heard anything? And just checking in with each other every once in a while. So that was really great.
Yeah. How did
Oh,
your
but real
sis-
quick,
What
real
up?
quick, before I forget this. Tomorrow, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Today is February 20th. Tomorrow's the 21st. Avatar: The Last Airbender turns 20.
Wow.
No,
And they
that's
just-
crazy.
And they just announced that the storyline for the next season. So it takes place after Korra, and some huge disaster happened, and the world is like in this dystopian, crazy, like not futuristic, but some kind of like element, and the Avatar is now a bad guy, or they think the Avatar is a bad guy. Like the
That's
Avatar
what the
is-
storyline is going to be?
Yeah, like people don't respect the Avatar anymore. Now they fear the Avatar because Korra screwed something up. So that's what
Oh.
it is. And rumor is it's a leak. I don't know if it's true, but the next Avatar is actually South Asian.
Oh, okay, but
Yeah.
why are they making it a bad guy theme with South Asians?
Yeah, well,
That's-
the Avatar is not a bad
Of
guy. It's like
course.
the propaganda in the
Mm.
world is saying that the Avatar is a bad guy because Korra probably did something to ruin the world. I don't know what it is, but these are all the leaks. These are some of the rumors. We don't know if they're true, but it's super exciting. Lots of news coming out, so I'm excited for that.
I actually listened to the episode that you guys talked about, the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Hot take. I did not love it as much as I thought I would. And I feel like
know.
that's like a general sentiment, but I was so excited for it and it just wasn't for me.
It was. I feel like I want to give it like grace and say maybe there's potential. Maybe like all the stuff that was wrong with it gets better in season 2, but it was not what I expected. It's not what I wanted.
Yeah, no, agree.
All of
Yeah.
us are in that same boat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of,
go for
real
it.
quick, since I got to introduce Azula, you guys get to meet Zuko.
Oh,
brother.
Zuko! Look
I
at
like Zuko
that.
better.
This is actually the one who loves to steal the show. He's a big time star. So, and he's one of those like floppy cats that lets you
Oh
do
my
whatever
God.
you want. So
So chill.
Yeah, that's the most chill cat I've ever seen.
he really is. And he loves to cuddle. Oh, he's perfect.
And
Anyway.
he's all about honor.
Yes, exactly. He just needs a little scar on his little face, which we will
Yeah.
never give him.
Yeah, we'll never give him. At least it'll be on the right side this time. Well, speaking of honor, how did your sister feel about you blowing up her spot about her end game crying to
Oh my
Ray 10 scene?
gosh. I will let you know that my sister gave me so much crap about going on the show and doing this. And she was like, why would you even include me in this just in general? Like everyone else's siblings are like posting them and like hyping them up and being like, oh my gosh, my sibling is famous. And my sister was like, oh, I forgot that it came out. Like, let me go watch it now. So that's how she reacted to that.
She humbles
That's
you. She
funny.
humbles you.
She humbles me. I'm telling you, she's too much cooler than me. That's like the Gen Z generation really does like put us all to shame in terms of how like nonchalant they are about everything.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So how's residency going? Are you almost done? Are you going for a fellowship, or are you going to work at a hospital now? What's going on?
I am in the last couple of months of it. Alhamdulillah, I'm finally getting through it. But I am a glutton for punishment and have signed on for 2 more years of fellowship. So, pray for me.
Well done.
I am going to go to and move to California to do 2 more years of ICU medicine.
Wow.
So the light is almost there, but we've got a little bit longer, inshallah.
It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it in the end. But if you're ever in a hospital in California, maybe your doctor might be a little famous. You never know.
You never know. You never know.
That's good.
Some Grey's
Alright.
Anatomy shit going on here.
Yeah.
Actually, so accurate. The things that you see in the hospital and all the interactions that you encounter is 100% Grey's Anatomy. There's actually a new show that came out called The Pit. And that is a show about emergency medicine, and it's probably the most accurate interpretation of what I do in a day-to-day. And I told my parents to watch the show because I really wanted them to like see what I do on a daily basis.
Really?
And they got through the first episode where there was like blood and guts and like all of this stuff, and they were like, we will not continue to watch this. We don't need to know that this is what our daughter is doing on the daily.
Me neither.
What?
The only doctor shows I watch is Scrubs, and now I started watching St. Dennis. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's also
Oh
a little
yes,
comedy show.
yes, that's a pretty funny show. This one is a little bit deep, but that gives me a little bit of some like comedic relief at the end of the day.
Yeah, I need a little levity in my ER.
Agree.
That's good. All right. So one of the things that people want to know about is the incident that happened between us later that night. I mean, they make it look like it's a different day, but it's actually just later that night. And it was because we were both in Atlanta. So we're
Yeah.
like, they flew us out to Atlanta. The date was early in the morning. So we're like, what are we going to do with the rest of the day? So we were like, oh, there's a poetry reading thing happening in solidarity with Palestine. And we were like, you got to go.
Yeah.
And honestly, all the stuff we went through, I think it's worth it just for the fact that we got an excuse to get solidarity with Palestine on TV. And I think that was worth it. That was so
I
worth it.
know. I was actually pretty shocked that they included that part. And I'm
too.
really glad they did because I know you'd posted that people were saying that there wasn't enough talk or like mention of Palestine while the genocide was going on. And I completely agree. And I'm glad that our small part actually got on there. And I will give credit to Hulu, like, especially with like Mo that just came, the second season that just came out, and like all of the representation of Palestine and the ways that they've allowed us to like make a platform and like say these things like is so impactful and important.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought that was really cool. And like
Yeah.
even the bracelets I'm wearing, you can see them in our date like the whole time, and you can see them when I'm weightlifting, which I don't love, but still it's fine. My gym actually posted that video, that picture, and I was like, that's so awkward.
I heard too that like I listened to the podcast and I heard that you said that the barber you went to was like, also I was under the impression that you were getting a haircut for me, and then
No.
I learned it was actually for your date with Fariel.
To be fair, I did get a haircut for a date for you, but that was on my own dime, and that was that was on me.
Okay.
That one.
Okay, fair.
That one was with my own barber, and not this random person who doesn't speak English.
Okay, fair. We'll allow it.
Yeah. No, it was really funny. Also, like one of the things that I think is really funny on the show is that like there's no scene where I have the same beard. Like my beard is a different length in almost every scene of the show. It's so weird.
Okay, but these are the things that like only you would notice, because
Yeah.
like no one else is noticing these things. Like, and also like your leg shaking and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really notice it at all until like you'd said about it. Like, and I'm the same way. Like I sat there and watched my parts over and over, and I was like, do I look fat? Like I kept asking like my parents and asking my friends. I was like, does my skin look that horrible? Like there's so many things that we just like fixate on, and I was convinced that like the camera had like added like 20 pounds to me, and I was like, you know what, it is what it is. But like nobody else notices these things.
No.
No,
Also, you got
great.
the best compliment out of all of us on Reddit,
Which was what?
that you seem normal.
Oh no, everyone is normal on the show. These things are meant to like make us feel awkward, and like all of the music that they put on top of it as well. Like, no, I promise from the bottom of my heart, all of us are normal people. You are a normal person.
Oh man, no.
Debatable.
I was about to say, he's your closest friend, so he would be the true judge of that, actually.
They do amp you up a little bit. Like, my anxiety is not that bad. My nerdiness is not that bad. I was like under the impression that they're gonna talk about all the adventures that I've been on, right? Like 34 countries, Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we're gonna go with the nerd thing. We're gonna go with the comic book.
I know, there were so many things that you and I talked about, and all the things that you got to do. You showed me pictures of all the places that you'd been, and like what that like plane stuff that you do, where you like stand on top, like
running
none of it. None of it. They were like, let's anchor on this one silence, or this one moment where you're like, oh, I just forgot what I was about to say, and then probably immediately picked it back up, but we didn't see any of that.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was they made it seem super brutal, but still, I feel like after watching the whole thing in its continuity, I was like, you know what, everyone got it. It wasn't just me. They didn't single me out, so I was like, all right, fair.
No.
But yeah, so I think a lot of people wanted a little bit more clarity on what happened between us, and I think I think that's one of the things that's interesting.
That's why I'm here.
And like a lot of it, like, you know, I'll say was my bad on me, but a lot of it was just, I would say, innocent.
I would agree with that. Like, I think especially looking back on it and like having grown in a year now. First of all, the people that we met, those friends that we made at the Poetry Slam at the dinner, were great people. Like, if they ever see this, those poor people did not know what we were doing, okay? Because when we had to introduce ourselves, we were both like, okay, we clearly can't tell anyone like why we're in Atlanta or anything.
Right.
And so I'm pretty sure they thought we were like business acquaintances, because we were like, oh, we're working on a project in Atlanta, and that's why we're here together. And so they're completely innocent in this, in that they had no clue that it was a date. They had no clue that we were involved at the time. Like, nothing like that. And they were so nice, and I can't remember their name for the life of me, but we had like such a great time with them. And I like also definitely, I think that was one of those situations where like you were trying to be very, very respectful and halal for like this person that you had just met. And I was like in this situation where I was like, I don't know these people that we're meeting. Like, this is the first time I'm meeting this guy, and now I got to meet 2 more people and keep up conversation with all 3 of them. So I agree that like, I think there was a lot of miscommunication in the moment, but truthfully, like, once we talked it out and like once we like actually communicated, it was a non-issue after that, is how I felt.
I really agree, because like in my head I was like, oh cool, more people, it'll be more halal. I was like, more people, it'll make you more comfortable.
I know.
The car situation had me in a panic.
What happened was after we left the Poetry Slam, we like all agreed to go to the dinner together. And his friends think that we're like business acquaintances. And so the guy who's with us is like, oh, Uneeb, you'll come with me in the car. And then the girl who was with us was like, oh, you'll come with me in the car and drive to the restaurant. And so Uneeb's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll get in this car with this girl I don't know. And then Uneeb had to like awkwardly like leave the other car and be like, wait, I'm gonna get in this car instead, and got into our car. And so it was just all 3 of us in this car. I
had a mini panic attack, because I was like, okay, I don't want to get into a car with her because it might not be halal, so I want to make sure that I keep it like a gentleman. But then I'm like, wait a second, she doesn't know this person. I can't put her in a car with a stranger. So like I kept going back and forth, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ride with you. No, I'm gonna ride with you. No, I'm gonna ride with you. And then I pulled her aside, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. she was like what? And I was like, never mind, I'm just gonna come with you. And she's
Yeah.
like, okay.
It was so that was awkward. Okay, those things are like true awkwardness that we like were easily able to overcome, not the like little gaps of silences in conversation. Like that was, and that's funny looking back on it. Like I wish there had been people to witness that moment, because you and I were definitely like, this is so cringe right now. Like what are we doing here?
It was like an episode of The Office. Like it was just really bad. Like I was
and we're like looking back at the camera like, what do I do? Like, where do I go?
I know.
Oh, you broke the fourth wall like Jim? I love it.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, but that's one of the things that like I really liked about that situation is that I really do feel like in this situation the matchmakers did help. They made me feel less like stressed out about what happened, because I catastrophize everything in my head. Like I make a small mistake in my head, I'm like, this is the biggest mistake in the world. And they kind of like made it like, listen, if we just explain it to both of you, I think it'll be okay. And I feel like Huda did a good job with that.
I think she did too. No, I agree with you, because I didn't have any outlook on what her conversation with you looked like. But she was very quick to be like, she may not have known how you felt at the end of the date, and so it'd be good to reach out. And in like retrospect, like you did reach out immediately, and you were like, hey, like I had a really good time. This was the situation. And you and I think, had like a phone call after this happened. And we were able to kind of clear the air pretty quickly. So I agree that they like did a good job of like trying to, kind of facilitate that situation a little.
Yeah, I remember that conversation too, because I was like, listen, forget the show. I don't care about the show. I just want to make sure you're okay. Like, we don't have to do anything else. We don't have to, I just want to make sure you're okay. Because that was my main thing. I was like, I felt bad that I, might have disrespected you or made you feel bad. And that was my main thing, to make sure you were okay. And then once I knew you were okay, I was like, okay, cool. We can continue. We can not continue. And we decided to continue and do the questions. And like, it didn't take long. I think like maybe like a week of questions. We were kind of like, we're not in the same stage in our life.
Yeah.
So, and that was pretty much it. There was no big blowout, no nothing. It was just kind of like, we're doing these questions and we're just like realizing like, you're in med school, residency, you've got so much more life to live. I am at that age where I like, I want to start a family and stuff like that. We were just in different places and we were just like, I don't think this is going to work. Yeah. And we kind of actually did it on camera, and they were like, they still decided to leave it open-ended, which is like fine. I think that's the narrative that they wanted to tell, but it's not like we dated for months and ended it. It was pretty much like right after.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that there's been so many discussions about like age difference and, kind of like setting you up to fail in that regard. But I think that, I personally relayed, I think, to the matchmakers when I was doing my interviews that I was not so much interested in like a certain age difference or was against any age difference, but I think like I had mentioned that it would be important to be in the same space of life, because for me and you, it like wasn't really like you said, it wasn't an issue so much that there was a age difference between us, but it was the fact that you were very upfront and honest. You were like, I have lived a really big life. I've gotten to do all of these great things. Like I have gotten to take care of my family, and now I'm ready to start my own. And I was very upfront as well in being like, I have not even had an adult job yet. Like I haven't gotten to experience life yet. And while I do feel like I am also starting to get to the point where I would like to, settle down with somebody and be in a relationship and start a family, I still have a little bit more time that I want to add to my life before I start doing that. And so I think once you and I realized that, we were quickly like, this was great. We've had a good time, but we're in different phases of life, so it's probably best to just be friends. Yeah. And yeah, they had no regard for the fact that not no regard, but like I think had this conversation off camera, and then you and I were having this existential crisis of like the producers that we worked with and everyone that we got to work with, like were so great and we felt so bad just like leaving them hanging.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, let's like at least film this on camera so that they have like something to use and like so that we haven't just like left them hanging. And then they decided to leave the story open-ended, which again is fine.
Yeah.
I think that that's good TV.
Yeah. It's good.
No.
'Cause I think you and me kind of knew where we were going in terms of like how it was going to end, and we were like, all right, we kind of know where it's heading. Let's save the actual thing for TV, and we did it. But they left it open-ended, which to me, I was like, I should put something out there to say that we're not together, because currently, like, you know, when you're dating someone else and stuff like that, you don't want people to be like, oh, did you meet her on the show? And I was like, you know what, for that, I'm going to put something out there. But I also wanted to show my appreciation, because after watching the show, I could have got paired with somebody else and it could have gone a lot worse after watching the show.
I know. I think that we got really lucky in that we are like you yourself are a really great person in general. And I think that you gave a lot of grace to the people that you were with. And you, I think, did a really good job of kind of showcasing like who you were authentically. And, you know, there have been like all these sorts of stories and rumors about like bad people on the show or people on the show who have like a difficult background. And I like really want to emphasize that you've always been so kind and generous and like a very, very good friend. And have never been that person. So that was something that I really appreciated as well, is that I got to go through this with somebody who ended up being like a friend of mine and not somebody who, you know, I left this like experience with in a bad relationship or bad state. So I agree with that. I think occasionally you'd be like, oh my gosh, do you regret like getting paired? Like, oh my gosh, like all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I think that this was the best outcome it could have been for me. So.
Same. I totally agree. I was so happy with the way it happened, and I was like, you know what, you come out of this not looking like a horrible person. That's a win. That's a win. Because there's some people that did not, and a lot of it, some of it is their own fault, but some of it is just, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess.
I know. That's you know, TV narratives can sometimes be hard too, in the way that they like latch onto something for entertainment purposes or a story. And so I think you've done a good job of like, again, giving grace to everyone and everyone's story. And I think that that's like the best we can ask for moving forward, is that everyone has grace for everyone's story in this.
That's great. That's great. What have other than your sisters, what have been your family's reaction to this? How do they feel about it?
Well, I think my parents came across an awkward moment where like our Muslim community and like all of the family friends that were in that community started sharing on social media with one another like, oh, have you guys heard of this new show coming out? Like, have you heard of Muslim Matchmaker? Like sending each other the Hulu link. And at one point they started sending it to me as well. And they were like, oh my gosh, this show is coming out. Like, this will be interesting. What do you think? And so my parents and I had a conversation, and I was like, you need to tell people that I'm on the show, or else it's going to be very awkward for you. Yeah. And so she ended up telling like all of her like friends that I was on the show. And so everyone was really nice and like very receptive to it. And I think they all knew that I'd been like, you know, trying to pursue a relationship. And like, you know, I think this was for them. They were like, oh, we see how desperate you are at this point. So,
no.
But no. But everyone was like really nice and like has been giving a lot of great feedback about how good I was on the show. And like, that's all I can ask for, is that I had a good story.
Yeah, you had a good story. Also, there was a part that they cut out where you talk about your family, and I was like, oh man, it would have been really cool for your family to see, because like your mom going back to school and getting all these degrees and stuff like that. That was really cool. You want to share that, since that didn't make it on the air?
Yeah, my mom so she moved to the US with my dad, who was getting his PhD in Oklahoma. And during that time, she like had moved away from her parents. She's an only child, and so they were very close. And she ultimately pursued a master's while he was getting his PhD. She got the master's and then spent a period of time staying home, just being a stay-at-home mom and taking care of my sister and I, and then pursued a second master's degree, and then started working. And then I think like when she was in her late 40s, early 50s, she was like, you know what? want to pursue a PhD. And so she actually graduated with her doctorate in 2023, and
Hey,
my dad and I got to hood her. So mashallah, mashallah.
How cool is that?
I know.
How-
That was like one of my proudest moments for sure.
I was like almost tearing up when I was like listening to that story at the bowling alley, and like there's not a lot of people crying in bowling alleys these days.
I want to mention my Uber driver on the way to the bowling alley was actually very, very curious about what we were doing at a bowling alley so early. Because it was like, I think 8 a.m. was when we arrived for the
Yeah.
bowling. And so he was driving me there and he was like, it's a little bit early to be bowling, don't you think? I was like, yes, sir. It
So
is.
sketch. I heard they kept you out there for a long time in the cold.
Yes.
Why did that to you and for y'all? Why are the women in outside in the cold and the men inside?
I will say they at least kept a van like warmed up for me to like sit in. So I got to sit in the van and like be warm. It was so cold. I think they really wanted us to like not see each other at all. And so they were like doing everything possible to prevent that, so that the introduction to one another would be like very authentic, and like it would be the first time that you and I met. And then afterwards they were like, hey, so we messed up the introduction on camera, so we need you guys to redo that. And so I don't know if that take was the one that like the first take of where we met, or if it was
No.
like this that was
That take was the last take because when I first met you, I didn't shake your hand, and I only shook your hand in the last take, and I was like, that's the one they used.
I remember you were having a bit of an existential crisis on my behalf, though, of like being like concerned, like I really hope like people don't come for us because we've like shaken each other's hands. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even consider that. Like, do we need to go back and do it again? Like,
it's so wild being Muslim. Like people have
know.
like affairs on these reality shows, and we're like worried about shaking hands. That's what
know.
we're worried about.
I know. So you're right. I completely forgot about that.
To be fair though, when I got that strike, we did miss the high five.
We did. That was an authentic missed high five. I will say, like, our reactions during the bowling was really authentic, because I think you and I just thought that it was going to be B-roll and not that they were actually going to put it on the show. So I think there's like at one point where I was like, we got to put our best foot forward. And I meant so that the cameras would have something good to roll. But I think that whole interaction with you and I was like the most authentic, because we were just like hanging out.
I heard from production that our date was the most fun date. Is what they said.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice.
That's from Tom. He doesn't give like compliments to many people.
I think that's what happens when like you meet genuinely great people. Like you just like hang out, you have fun, and like it comes off that way. Like that's truthfully like how we interacted and like how we were. And we didn't really need to act or anything like that, because we were just two friends having a good time.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. That part where the bowling ball gets stuck in my thumb and I pop it out into like a little sound, that's not a sound effect they added.
No,
that was, like, real.
that was authentically. Yes, it was. My reaction was real, because I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, it actually did pop. And he actually got a strike. Like, we were both shocked by the strike too, because we had not been bowling well leading up to that. And so when he got the strike, that was our authentic, like, yes.
And they were like, this is the last shot. And I was like, all right, last try. And then the last try, I got it. I got the strike. I was so happy.
Wait, y'all legit played a whole game of bowling? And it was only the last one? That's amazing.
They like cut us off. I think they cut us off at one point, and they were like, okay, you guys need to bowl now. We were like, oh, okay, like, let's do it. We sat in this bowling alley for hours before we even like got to bowl.
Yeah, it was really funny. Have you ever had a date at a bowling alley before?
I haven't. I truthfully haven't dated a whole ton. And so that's why also I think my friends were very surprised that I went on the show, because they were like, you went from like not going on dates, not really seeing anybody for a long time, and then all of a sudden you're going to showcase your first date in like years on a TV show. I know, exactly. I was like, if I'm going to do it big, like I got to do it big. So they were pretty shocked by that.
That's
you're definitely
funny.
from Texas.
I know, you can hear a little bit of the twang in there. I'm trying to keep it on the down low.
go big or go home, right? That's the Texas motto.
Yeah.
That's so funny. What about at work? I think before we went on the air, you talked a little bit about how people at work are treating you for being
Oh
on the.
my gosh. They like all of the nurses at one point like put it up on a big screen in the in like one of our like Bay areas so everyone could watch it all together. And then they've been like leaving little notes of like, oh, don't get like too famous and forget about us little people. And every time I make a mistake, they're like, oh, she's a TV star now. So like that's why she can't get it right this time. Like
She gets a pass.
small things like that. But I remember I like, one of the things that came up with the show a lot was that they kept wanting me to film and do things when I had like pretty serious residency obligations.
Yeah.
And so I think at one point they had wanted me to fly to Jersey to like hang out with you.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do it during the week of like my annual exam. And I was like, I cannot leave. I will get fired if I don't take this test. And so that was part of it as well, is like they were very kind, but I think filming, scheduling was like so difficult to keep up with, especially during that period of my residency. And that just also like added to like the whole, this is like really difficult for me to be able to keep up with when they asked if I wanted to continue to pursue being matched on the show.
Yeah, I think we were the only interracial couple on the show.
Really? I
Right?
guess
You were.
Because
I think you might be right.
I think everybody was like
and what's his name? They were both Arab.
Omar?
Like,
Arab, yeah.
Yeah,
And
they were
then-
Arab.
Asian specifically.
right.
Yeah.
And then Noreen and Fahim were both Bengali.
Mm-hmm. And then,
then Bucky and Rehan were both Pakistani.
Pakistani.
Me
Yeah,
and Freyal were
and
both
then
Pakistani. And then,
Imran
yeah, and
and
Norin, they were both
Nurin.
Yeah.
Malaysian.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I personally had told the matchmakers that I was not necessarily interested in anyone from a certain background or ethnicity or culture. It did matter to me that they were Muslim. That was like the only requirement I had. But I was pretty specific in that I don't care. And I still stand by that. I think that, our ummah is so big and diverse. It seems limiting to like limit us to one culture or ethnicity. So that's probably why, like, it may have been that you and I were just like,
More open to it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we had a conversation about that on camera too, where I talked about my family, because my family is my brother's side. He's married to a woman from Iraq, so he's like entrenched into the Arabic culture now because he lives there and stuff like that. And his daughter is now half Arabic, so I'm like, I want to learn more Arabic so I can talk to my niece in Arabic and stuff like that.
yeah.
So, but yeah, we had a conversation about that, and I was like, my parents don't care at this point. I'm so old that like whoever take it, whoever will take him, will take him.
No. It's okay. I'm like turning 30 next year, and already my parents are like, whoever, whatever, just get to it. And in their defense, it's because they would be like, I think they really want to be grandparents, and like, inshallah, they will be really great grandparents. And so that's part of why they are like, it's time, like, let's go.
It's time, yeah. Just pop them out, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's
Listen,
go.
being grandparents is fun. I almost want to skip being a dad and just go straight to being a grandparent. Like,
No
it sounds more fun.
responsibility. You hang out with the kids for a little bit. You hand them back to their parents at the end of the day.
I
Would be the
know.
best thing ever.
So much fun. So much fun. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything you want to talk about that we didn't get to talk about?
I don't think so. I don't really have anything to plug. I am a very poor resident physician. And so if
For now.
you want, for now, so if you want to start a GoFundMe to help me fund my move to California, that's all that I want to promote. But
Let's do it. Let's do it. Also,
Fuck it.
are
I'm
are
gonna
your
go fund me right now.
are your DMs open? Are you single? What's the story here?
I am in fact single and still looking. So if if anyone wants to slide into my DMs,
Let's go.
they're open. So
Let's go. Let's go. Listen, as someone who's been on a date with
Wait
you,
a
I can give you a great reference.
oh yeah,
I'll give you a good reference.
okay. Text it to me after the show.
All right. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Everyone who's listening in. Hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys got all the mystery from Farah, all the details, everything that you wanted to know about her. And you know, she's just such a gem of a person. I really, really appreciate you.
Thanks. I really appreciate you too. Thanks, y'all, for having me on the show.
No problem. And until next time, guys, Salaam, nerds.